Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Hello. I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint. So I don't know how many of you saw on the news today, or recently, apparently they found another planet very much like Earth. So that's why I have an astronomy first slide. But looking at the ETD conference, I really doubt that in this parallel Earth, another larger Earth, that they have an ETD conference that's going to be as good as ours. Because looking at the program, it looks spectacular. So today I'm going to talk about some of the top trends in graduate education. But I want to start with a quote. And the quote is that digital technology will not only transform the intellectual activities of the research university, but will also change how it is organized, financed, and governed. Now that quote is almost 10 years old from the National Research Council, but really it couldn't be truer than it is today. And so my purpose today is to outline some of the changes that we've seen in graduate education, and if you consider whether you agree or disagree with me, because I think some of them might be a little controversial. These observations are based on Proquest and the PhDs that we employ, and the PhDs that we disseminate throughout the world. The first thing I want to do is to remind you about Proquest and the different wheel of research that we're involved in. You can see on the screen, and this is what we call, as I mentioned, the wheel of research. We have research and resource products that talk about literature review, all the way through funding opportunities, through some of our COS resources. With serial solutions and with RefWorks, you can manage and maintain your research. You can collaborate, you can write an ETD, you can submit and publish your ETD through Proquest and our dissertation program, and present. So that full wheel of research we're involved in. So we come into contact with a lot of different students, faculty, and other researchers, and that's where these observations today are based. So what I'd first like to start out with is collaboration. Collaboration really is global, as we all know. But for a tenured faculty member, this can almost be taken for granted, because they have a vast network of colleagues that they've developed over years, or even decades. And so we've seen that a lot of faculty that we've come in contact with are almost like a fish in the ocean. They're swimming in water. They don't think about their network that they've cultivated over the years, and rightly so, because they've worked hard to get there. But if you're a young faculty member or a student just completing your PhD, how do you develop this network? How do you get interaction with your peers on a global, talked about collaboration being truly global? Well, there are a few ways that you can do that I wanted to highlight today. One of them is through a system that Proquest offers called GradShare. And this is a free service Proquest offers that any university can take us up on and integrate as part of your curriculum and part of your interaction with students, the free service GradShare. So oftentimes students feel isolated in a particular department, and they're working with a small group of people. They don't feel comfortable, for example, about talking to a problem about how to deal with a mentor or an advisor that they might have difficulty with. Well, that's where GradShare comes in. So faculty members or students can log on, ask a question, and then be answered by fellow students around the world about a sensitive topic, or even a topic about how to write a PhD. How do you really focus and complete the PhD? There's a lot of that discussion going on in GradShare. And then we try to have a little bit of fun in GradShare as well. We created a Is My Thesis Hot or Not site. So you can enter in your thesis title and then get feedback from your peers around the world about whether your thesis title is hot or not. So it's a little bit of fun for that, as we heard earlier, that kind of social network crowd that everyone's engaged with today. But research is happening, and this global collaboration is happening not just from, obviously, from the world where we are, the primary English-speaking world or the developed world, but from places like China, where researchers in China are particularly very, very anxious to get a hold and get in touch with researchers in other continents, in Africa and North America. So we see one service that we have some connection with called AniaNet, which is a database for Chinese researchers to enter their information and then be made in contact with others in other countries who have a similar orientation, to write a journal article or to collaborate in another way. So these are just one of two ways that this global collaboration is occurring. A second thing that we've observed is the online graduate education and how that has really changed the face of information. Online information really means that country boundaries are obsolete, they're less important, and what it's really turned the world into is kind of a global academic marketplace. There are some countries we all hear about in the news that are introducing fees, such as the United Kingdom. And when you introduce fees, obviously you have more of a customer service orientation, or you're developing that among students who really want a particular service out of the money that they're paying. So we've heard of some students who take a look at the Shanghai University rankings or at the Times Higher Education Supplement and see who will offer, what university that's the highest ranked offers the lowest cost tuition. And they're not thinking about what's down the road or across the street or the nearest university, which really was the paradigm that I think a lot of us are familiar with. This globalization of graduate education is happening because of the online component. Universities are having students come to campus once or twice a year, but primarily they're having and offering online graduate education programs that then are done online and done really at a time that's more suited to the graduate student. The third trend that I want to talk about today is the careers beyond their traditional professoriate. So I have a statistic I'd like to share. The American Association of University Professors found that in the last 3 years, the number of tenure-track positions are increasing by 2%, but the non-tenure track or adjunct professors are increasing by 11%. And we know through the work that the Council of Graduate Schools is doing that the number of PhDs are increasing in the United States at least at 3 to 4%. So that's really making a squeeze. People are not going to be able to go in and get a tenure track position. There are going to be adjunct professors, or they're going to have to go into another line of work entirely because there just aren't enough faculty jobs. But what we at Proquest have tried to do is to help students and help organizations like the Council of Graduate Schools have the PhD students think about how to market themselves outside of the traditional academy. Because many PhD students we found don't realize how transferable the work that they did in graduate school is to the private sector. Proquest has provided feedback to universities regarding how PhDs can market themselves by thinking about themselves as really preeminent in being able to be self-directed and have work habits that are very focused. Typically, PhD students are a quick study to new technology and new skills. So when they reach a crossroads, they're really able to think about those skills, including leadership, communication, computer and technical abilities, problem-solving abilities, teamwork, and a commitment to lifelong learning, because we know PhDs often take quite a long time to complete their degree due to the rigor of their studies. So we encourage these PhDs who are going out into the global knowledge economy to think about the contribution that they make to the sectors outside the academy. Their ability to formulate research questions and evidence-based decision-making. They can formulate and conduct independent collective research projects. They can absorb and digest great amounts of information. They observe patterns. They weigh evidence before recommending an action. And the PhD holders have a great deal to contribute beyond the applied research in other sectors. Many universities and governments are seeking to better prepare their students for such positions. And we at Proquest want to help that and help advocate that. We employ dozens of PhDs in the variety of work that we do, from sales representatives to people like myself who work in publishing, to our editors who are really focused in their own positions and experts in their domain. So if you come across a student who's bemoaning the opportunities in the academy, we think that you could suggest to them that outside the academy may hold something of interest to them as well. The fourth trend that we've seen is the increase in professional PhD degrees. Now, professional degrees are focused more on imparting a skill set rather than the traditional training in research methodology. These are becoming popular, we've seen, because they're thought to facilitate more of an immediate application to a work environment. Some criticize these professional PhD degrees precisely because they do not impart the traditional research focus. But really, the aim of the professional doctorate is to find novel approaches to integrating professional and academic knowledge, so they take the academic and the professional together. The UK Economic, Social and Research Council define them as making a contribution to both theory and practice in their field, and developing a professional practice by making a contribution to knowledge. Now, obviously, for a professional degree, the course structure will vary, institution by institution. But common to all the professional doctorates is the completion of original piece of research, much like a PhD thesis, or the traditional thesis. Most professional doctorates have a self-directed study element, and that's formally assessed. These components frequently include both the teaching of research methods and also components related to broadening or deepening the student's understanding of the disciplines in which they're studying. The professional doctorate is a polarizing topic in academic circles today, in part because there's not agreement among professional doctorates and what they are and how they relate to the more traditional PhD. But we think this problem has a problem in PhDs as well, the broader PhD, and in fact suggests that a PhD have some commonality across research and across the world. And we know that the Council of Graduate Schools is working on this a bit. They're working to the academy in general and with an aim of providing a definition for professional doctorates as well as for the traditional doctorates. In a recent book called Making the Implicit Explicit, Creating Performance Expectations for the Dissertation, Barbara Lovitz notes that there's a lack of cross-disciplinary standards for PhDs. She notes that faculty lack a consensus about the skills that they need to impart to the students. And if the faculties can't agree on the skills that they are to impart, obviously the students are being imparted with the same skills across the world. Her book was really thought-provoking, and I urge you to take a look at it because it suggests that a discussion of multidisciplinary skills could lead to the development of common standards and aims to construct common preliminary standards in important fields like biology, physics, etc. And the role of the university, we believe, is to discuss and evaluate these performance expectations in conversation with other individuals. So we encourage this line of thought to get more of a global view of what it should be imparted as part of a PhD. The last trend that I'd like to talk about today is sharing research. And here at the ETD conference, it's quite easy to talk about sharing research because I think that we all agree that that's something that we're aligned with and need to do as importantly as we possibly can. So for Proquest, the stride that we've made in exploring and sharing research is that we've eliminated the fee to publish a dissertation through the Proquest Dissertation and Thesis database. That's the database that used to be called Dissertation Abstracts, and for 70 years we charged a fee. We're now not charging a fee, so students from wherever they are, universities across the world, can submit their dissertations to us, and we will take them in, we'll normalize the metadata, we'll apply the methodology across the subject terms, we'll create the preservation digital copies as well as the microfilm copies. We will pay the author a royalty on all sales, and we'll do this and disseminate that work through the dissertation database that last year had over 200 million searches as part of the database, which is used at 3,000 libraries all over the world. So we have a stand in the exhibit area if you'd like to come and talk to us if you're not participating in the Proquest program, and perhaps that reason was because we did charge a fee. Please come talk to us and we'll be happy to discuss how sharing the ETD can not only happen in your repository, but can happen through Proquest and how we'll help you broaden your research. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time and thank the conference organizers for organizing what looks to be such a great conference. Thank you very much. Yes, and that last slide, more change to come. So another year from now, I'm sure we'll all be thinking about 5 new trends instead of the 5 today.